Hey, what's going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Attack on Titan theory, and we're going to be talking about Historia Reiss, formerly known as Krista. I know I've been keeping up on the reviews, but I have been watching Attack on Titan. I'm very, very much enjoying this season, of course. Hopefully I'll eventually get back to doing more reviews. It's just been very hard these past couple of months. As you guys know, I'm not even doing Dragon Ball Super reviews, so I mean that just tells you where my reviews of each episode are as of late. Okay, so I mainly want to cover Attack on Titan's Krista or Historia because, like, after this past week's episode, for anyone who hasn't watched the episode that aired on Toonami last week, there will be spoilers. I will be mentioning a bunch of crap that's been going on in the new season 3 of Attack on Titan English dub. This is about the English dub, so keep that in mind. I will use dub terms only. Because I do like the Attack on Titan English dub. I know a lot of people seem to not like it, but I like it. But of course, I only watch dub animes to begin with. But I think the cast is very good. So we're going to be covering Historia in this theory, and it's basically where this character goes from here. And I know it's going to be, people are going to be wondering, what do you mean by where the character goes from here? Well, here's the thing. Ever since Attack on Titan started, Krista, or Historia, as she's known now as we know, has been a mystery. She really has. She's been a mystery, and it's probably taken us all 3 seasons to probably figure that out by now, but it's pretty obvious. She is a mystery character, and we know a lot more about her now, but there's still a lot of stuff we don't know about her. And there's just such a big mystery behind her. And where they're going with this character, because this character has consistently changed my viewpoint as the series has gone along. In the first season, I didn't really think anything much about her. I didn't think of her as a serious character. Of course, we were duped because Krista was supposed to be a false character of her real self. But I never looked at her as somebody that was into Ymir after the first season. But then again, I didn't really think anything of her, in terms of where she was going. There were a couple of moments with her and Rhina, but that was really about it. Wasn't really until we started seeing her in like the spin-off series, Attack on Titan Junior, where they kind of showed more of a thing between Ymir and Krista, as they called her still back then. They didn't call her Historia because they didn't want to tell us that by that point, obviously. But then, okay, I looked at that and was like, okay, they're just doing that for fan service. Okay, it's a spin-off series. It's whatever. It's not a part of the main series. But then in season 2, we started to see more interaction with Ymir and Historia, or Krista. And so then we started to see more of that. And we even seen it a little bit with Rhina too, and Krista. But of course, as we found out, spoilers, Rhina is a Titan, a colossal Titan. And so then we got to see more development between Ymir and Krista, or now Historia. So they were kind of, I guess, going into that whole direction with, not Ymir, God damn it, Historia and Krista, or Krista, her being like an openly bisexual, because I just think she just happens to be into a mirror. I don't think she's like truly like full in, unless that's been stated before, but I don't think it has. But at least from where I was going, that's where they took it. But I was okay with that because that was good development the way they did that. Unlike other, franchises, Legends of Korra, where they didn't do development. They kind of did it a little better with Krista here, and they were kind of like, okay, we're gonna kind of go in this direction with Amir and Krista, or Historia. Okay, so they did all that. Okay, they did that with the character. Okay, and then we find out the truth that she's not Krista, she's Historia, and then we find out, things about her, that she was basically an outcast, she was like, an odd person, there was too many, so they were like, okay, we're just gonna dump her out here, and so then she joined the scout regiment, and whatnot, so she could be useful. We find all that stuff out, right, about her. So that was all fine and dandy, okay, and she has a thing for Amir, that's good. There's good development there. Nothing wrong with that. Um, but then now we're in season 3. Amir's gone. We don't know if she's dead or alive. I'm assuming she's alive, but I mean, who knows? But I'm gonna just go on the assumption that she somehow survived. But who knows? Right now. But here's the thing. So we haven't seen Amir since season 2. So she's kind of out of the picture right now. Meanwhile, we have Historia, and we're getting a lot more development with Historia in terms of where she stands. Now we find out, spoilers again, that she's part of the royal family. She's basically the last person of her bloodline other than her father, which we find out her father had his own motives towards what he wanted to use against Historia. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, they're basically trying to find out like how to take over these false, rulers, which they do, and then we find out that this whole time Eren's special ability that he has is basically not really his, but is, something his father took from the royal family, because the royal family, anytime they get this ability, they basically just continue using the king's views. Like they get brainwashed into his own viewpoint. So the king or queen from the royal family can never really have their own free will, because they basically are bound to always listening to the original king's view long after death. It's kind of like an Avatar situation. The only difference is it's in the wrong way, because basically you're basically forced to basically do what this king, the original king of the Reiss family, did centuries ago, but he died, so now he just passes on his power. Each time you take that power, you learn about everything, and then you get brainwashed into having to basically continue his legacy the way he wants it fit, which of course they don't want. And I think that's a really good thing, because I think this is kind of stupid for them to do this, because obviously this is, what is starting this whole Titans. As we all know, Titans are actually humans. Spoiler, but you should know this by now. Titans are humans. So basically, obviously, Historia doesn't want to do this, but I suspect that a lot of her family members didn't want to do this, and they were forced into doing this. And because of this is why the Reiss family has been consistently always doing the same thing over and over and over again, because they have to continue the original king's viewpoint, on this, which isn't good. Um, Here's the thing. Okay, so now we got Historia, who essentially is the last person of the Reiss family. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways they can go with this. Because in the last episode, Captain Levi said that she has to be the queen. She doesn't obviously want to be the queen. I could just tell that she doesn't want to be the queen. But she's basically being forced upon being the queen, even though she doesn't like it. She's still going to do it. Because that's the kind of character she is. That, even though, it's a burden to her, she's going to still do it. She doesn't want to do it, but she's going to do it. There's a couple different ways they can go with this. Okay, there's a couple different ways they can go with this. And these are this is where the theories are coming in for me. Okay, there's a couple different ways you can go with this. Okay, because obviously she doesn't want to be queen. Theory one, which is the one I think they should do, but doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do it. Do something similar to what they did in Legends of Korra with the Earth King. And that's basically, she becomes queen, and then she decides that she's going to disband the royal family to figurehead status and now elect a president, start a democratic type government, and let them decide by election to who's president. That is something I think they could do with Historia taking over, because they said they can't have military rule for that much long, so they need to legitimize it by having a legitimate queen from the royal family. And that would be Historia. But Historia, she comes in there and says, this is what we're going to do, is I'm going to slowly dethrone my power and give it, and start changing the government more into an election process to determine our ruler and have a president. That's something I think could happen. I think that's a huge possibility, the way they're going with this story. And I would like that type of story. I would like that concept, because obviously Historia doesn't want to be the queen. She doesn't want to obviously have this burden. And there's going to be a lot of pressure on her, because, she's the last person in her family. Let's say, like, Amir comes back and, they get married. She can't have a kid with Amir, because, they're the same sex. So that can't really happen if she, gets married to Amir, which I don't have a problem with her marrying Amir, but I'm just saying that in terms of this whole royal family theory to work, she would have to have a kid, and you can't just say adopt a kid, because that doesn't work either, because technically the only way this whole power royal family thing goes on is you have to be related by blood. So it can't be an adopted kid either, for people that are going to be like, well, they could just adopt a kid. That's not going to work in terms of like the whole bloodline thing, because it has to be legitimate blood. So that can't work if you're going to go in that whole direction. So for anyone who will probably comment that theory. Second theory is she gets married to someone else besides Amir. Let's say, assume that Amir doesn't come back, because we don't know if she's dead or alive. I'm just assuming that she's alive, because they didn't show her actually dying, and that usually is a sign that she will come back. Like, usually when characters like sacrifice themselves like that and they don't show them on screen physically dying, that's a sign that they're actually alive. Just like the same thing with Cinder and Ruby. We're under the assumption that she's probably alive. For people that haven't seen her, that's theory, that because we never physically on screen see her die. So that's something that I'm assuming. But let's just say on an assumption that Amir doesn't survive. Okay, this would go into the whole queen theory of the possibility of her marrying someone else and having a kid to continue the bloodline, I guess. so to speak, because she's the only kid left. I mean, yeah, I know she doesn't want to be queen, and I know it would be like, oh, well, does it matter? Well, in a way it would, because the people would be like, well, why don't you have a kid? Because, eventually she's not going to live long enough. And then when she dies, then there would be no one left from the royal family. So then they would have to go to a different government thing anyways if she didn't have a kid. So, her being the only person left in the royal family, she would have to get another kid. She would have to have another kid to continue that bloodline. And so, that's what I'm saying. Like, if she doesn't have a kid, then her bloodline ends. And guess what? Then, like, the people are going to be pissed because they're going to be like, well, what the hell? What are we supposed to do now? And so then they'd have to create a new government anyways. So if they go in that route, she would have to marry someone that's a guy, because that's the only way you can have a kid in the actual physical blood of, her bloodline, so to speak. So that's the only way you could do that. You can't adopt for that type of case, for people that are gonna like use that argument. You can't at that point. So yeah, that would be the other theory. So then, like, that's why I would say Amir died in this scenario, because I can't, like, see these two not getting together if she is alive. So that would be my scenario on theory 2. Which, again, I don't think this theory is going to happen, but like I said, it's the only way you could continue that bloodline, if you're going to do that. Theory 3, and I don't like this theory at all, but I hate this theory, actually. Like, I hate this theory out of them all. Like, the first one I think is the more probable one. But theory 3 is that Eren gets married to Historia. And I hate this theory because I'm a Mikasa and Eren shipper. And I hate having to admit that this theory could possibly happen, because I don't see Eren and I don't see Historia as a legitimate couple. I don't see it. Even in the last episode, where they kind of hinted at, the whole, that they're friends. Well, they didn't really hint at anything, actually. They just talked about their past and stuff like that. And they talked about, Eren's past and what what his father did and stuff like that. That's all they talked about the entire time. They didn't really have any ship moments. They didn't really have any hint moments of them being a legitimate thing. The only thing they really talked about was they had a connection in terms of the fact that Eren's father took the Reiss's power away from them and gave it to Eren, and that's why Eren has that ability that we've all been interested in for a while. Now, where that coincides with the Colossal Titans and Annie, because we all know Annie, Bertel, and Rhino were all going after Eren. And I don't know if they were going after him for the royal family or they were going after them for himself. It doesn't seem like they were going after them for the royal family, because if they were going for them, they would have mentioned something like that. They never did. It felt like they were going them for themselves. It wasn't like they were trying to eat him or something like that. I think they were trying to convert him on their side. So I don't feel like any of the Colossal Titans were legitimately doing it for the royal family, at least at this time, I don't think, because it didn't feel like they were trying to. So I feel like they had other motives beyond what the Reiss family wanted, or Historia's father. So I hate that theory. But I had to bring it up because it's a possibility now. Because you got to think about it this way. Okay, Eren, okay, has the special ability. Okay, even though it doesn't work properly. See, that's the thing. Eren's the ability doesn't work like fully for him because he's not part of the royal family, but he can still use special abilities with it. But he doesn't have, which is why I think the father did this to Eren, was because he had the ability, or he has the ability, but he doesn't have, because he's not a royal family member, he doesn't have the influence of the descendant original king of the Reiss family. And because of that, that's why it benefits for Eren to have it, to have this ability. Now, how the Colossal Titans learned about this, I don't know. They might have just known for whatever reason, but it didn't feel like they were going after him for the royal family. I never got that sense. Now, I would have to, on hindsight, look back to really get more of a full, in-depth opinion on that now, looking back on it now and seeing it and thinking about it now. But that's just where I go on that whole viewpoint. But yeah, if they go in that route, I would not like that. Because I really feel that Mikasa and Eren are, well, they're the most popular ship in the fandom for Attack on Titan for everyone. But I also think they are the best together. So I feel like that would be the best way to go. So I wouldn't like them to do that. I'd rather them do Ymir and Historia over doing Historia and Eren. Like, I would hate if they did Eren and Historia. I'd rather them do Ymir if they were gonna ship, someone. Like, that's how I would do it. But I wouldn't like that because it just doesn't make sense. And also in another way, it would feel forced. It would feel like it would be like a forced type of ship, like Korra and Asami. Like, I didn't feel like they were a legitimate ship. I felt like that was forced by the writers. And that's what I feel like if they do Eren and Historia, I feel like that'd be forced by the writers if they went in that route. Rather than go with what the actual characters should be together with. That's just my opinion. And that's how I look at it. The way the story is going. So I wouldn't like that. So what other theories? Like, right now, like, the way they're structuring this is, like, see, Eren's like the main character of the show, right? But in season 3, more or less, it feels more about Historia than anything else at this point in the story. Eren, we pretty much know everything about Eren now. Like, after the last week's episode, like, and it was kind of funny too, because in the last week's episode they finally mentioned, like, because they talked about the key thing, and I was like, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, the key thing, I forgot all about that." And I'm thinking to myself, like, when he said that, I was like, dude, I have been mentioning this since halfway through season 1. And you're just saying, "Oh, you forgot about it. God damn it all, you little bitch." I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna pretty much get a real good idea of where Eren's at and where his character is going. Well, we pretty much already have an idea where Eren's going, actually, because we know about his abilities. We know that they're gonna go to the key, thing in the basement, and they're gonna pretty much find everything else out that they need to know about. But we pretty much know everything about her or about him. We don't know that much about Historia. We don't know that much about Historia. Like, we starting to know more stuff about her, but I mean, the whole first season, it was a false character. She was playing, a character from a book she read. I mean, like, there was literally a book she read when she was her mother read to her. That is how she created this Krista character. So she was creating a false character that we didn't know anything about in season 1, and then she is revealed to being who she is, and that's actually Historia, even though she didn't fully know about hardly anything about her until she got her memories fully back. So now we're starting to learn more about her, and I'm more interested in her right now than any of the characters right now. Eren's still my favorite character in Attack on Titan, but right now, I'm more interested right now in what they're doing with Historia's character, because I don't know where they're going with her, and it really interests me because there's a lot of different ways. Like I said, those are my 3 popular theories on where her character can go in terms of her being the queen. And like I said, either way, I don't know. I can't see any other ones. Those are the only ones I could see them doing for her, because of the way their character's being set up. She's being set up to being the queen, despite the fact she doesn't want to be the queen. She's being forced to be the queen. And so that means she's going to have kids, because they end the bloodline. If they end the bloodline, yeah, I know they want to end it, but if they do end it, then you go into the risk of the people being like, well, why aren't you having kids if you're the last person in your bloodline? Because they pretty much will know that she's the last person in her bloodline. The public is not going to be happy like she's not having any kids, because she doesn't have any kids, and they can't continue the family. They can't continue that royal family. So that's the thing. And that leads into that whole theory with Eren, marrying her. Because if Eren were to marry her, right? If Eren were to marry her and have a kid with her, I think that would end the bloodline of the royal family's influence. And hear me out on this. It would end the royal family's bloodline on the influence of this ability, because Eren has the ability. And his blood would be mixed. The kid, boy or girl, blood would be mixed in with Eren's blood, as well as Historia's blood. So his influence would now be in it, which would destroy the bloodline of the Reiss family. That's just my theory. I mean, I could be totally wrong on that, but I'm not an expert on how the blood works in Attack on Titan. But I would think an essentialist, wouldn't that destroy the whole, because I guess this is like a reincarnation type ability power that's being passed on through generations, dating back to the first king. So like if Eren were to marry her, and since Eren has the ability, because he's not a Reiss, family member, he's not a Reiss family member, wouldn't he destroy the bloodline? If he married Historia? Because that's what I'm thinking. But I could be totally wrong on this, because I don't know how the biology of the blood works in Attack on Titan. But that's just what I'm thinking, in terms of how they're going with this. But I don't know. I don't know for sure. But I wouldn't like that, because I don't want to see Historia and Eren together, because it doesn't make fucking sense. Amir, well, Rhina, fuck Rhina, because Rhina's a fucking bitch. Like Rhina's a fucking colossal. So like that's not fucking happening now. It would have to be Historia and Amir, if Amir's alive still. But if they do that, man, that would be so bad, because that'd be forced. I don't like forced ships. I don't like forced ships, especially if they don't make sense. Like I guess in a way this would make sense based on the storyline, but at the same time, it would be going against like the whole code of, we're forcing this character to be a queen, we're forcing this character to do this, we're forcing the character to do that. And we're now forcing this character to get married and have a kid. That's kind of like a contradiction to the whole, trying to save humanity type thing to begin with. Like, they kind of are destroying that argument by, like, saying, okay, we're taking this and we're doing this for the good of humanity, but at the same time, we're fucking everybody else. And I mean that in the term as in we're fucking the characters like, true nature. You know what I'm saying? By forcing them to, marry people that they don't want to marry, or do this because, it's a good for humanity, rather than just create a new government, which I'm sure they could easily do. I mean, I don't know why Levi hasn't thought of it. I mean, Levi's a bright guy. I mean, he's like the smartest guy right now in the scout regiment, right? I would have thought by now he would have thought of like this, but apparently he hasn't. Maybe he thinks about it later on. I don't know, but that's my whole take on this. Is like, we'd be forcing these characters to basically do this. So in a way, wouldn't they be no better than what the Reiss family has been doing for centuries? If you think about it, they would be. Because they're basically, even though they're trying to get away from what the Reiss family are doing, they're basically doing essentially the same thing. If they decide for Historia to get married to someone that she essentially doesn't want to marry, they are basically forcing her to do something that she doesn't want. They're already forcing her to be a queen. So you're forcing her to be a queen, and now you're going to force her to marry someone that she probably doesn't want to marry. Like, so now you're already, basically destroying the whole point of what they're doing, because now they're basically saying, well, we have to do this. Historia has already said that she doesn't care about the fate of humanity. She said this. She said this a couple episodes ago. So at the same time, you're making her a queen. You're making her a queen for the savior of humanity, but at the same time, she doesn't give a fuck. Okay? She doesn't want to have these responsibilities. So they're basically contradicting the whole point of her character right now. And I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I like what they're doing. I mean, I like the action that's been going on, but the messages that they've been delivering, seems so contradiction. There's so much contradiction in what they're doing. It just doesn't add up, in my personal opinion. And that's my whole take on it. Like I said, please, comment down below what you guys think. Like I said, this is from the English dub. I've only watched the English dub, so that's where we're up to right now. So let me know what you guys think about this, and let me know what your theories are on the where they're going with Historia right now. Do you think she'll still end up with Amir? Do you think she'll end up with Eren? Or do you think she'll end up with someone else? Maybe Rhino will will get a pardon. Maybe he'll get a pardon, even though we don't really know that much about him. Other than he's a colossal titan. And I still would like to know what happened to Annie. Like where is she? Armin claims that she's like she's being freaking. She's being experimented on, but we all know, hey, he was bullshitting with Bertolt because he knew Bertolt had a thing for Annie. But it was kind of cool though. I will not lie, that was kind of cool. She's still frozen. She's still frozen at the moment, so we don't know what anything else developed after that though. So I would like to know what happened to Annie. I would like to know more about Annie, because we never learned that much about Annie. Maybe that could be another theory on what happened to Annie. Well, maybe next time. But this is about Historia. So that's my whole take. Like I said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. What do you think? Where do you think? Who do you want her to be shipping? Do you think it should be Amir? Do you think it should be Eren? Do you think it should be someone else? I don't want it to be Eren. So believe me, I'm totally on the the Amir bandwagon because I want Eren and Mikasa. So yeah. Where do you guys think? Anyone else that you would think would go with Historia? God, I keep like going back and forth Krista and Historia because I'm so used to the Krista name, and I'm still trying to remember a Historia name because that's her real name, and even though Krista was her original name, on screen, but like I keep getting screwed up with it. So let me know what you guys think. Comment, rate. If you like this video or any other videos, please subscribe. And if you like me to do more Attack on Titan theories, let me know. And that's about it, guys. I am the SS Ultimate Goku, and I'm out of here. Peace.